Have you ever wondered why dating can feel, well, so complicated? Sometimes the answer isn't really about chemistry or timing. It's actually about math. Today, we're going to dig into the real numbers behind the modern dating scene and see what happens when a pretty common wish list runs into some cold, hard statistics. So, let's break it down.
Whoa, okay, that's a pretty bold statement, right? It's the kind of thing that's designed to make you stop and look. But you know what? It's the perfect way to kick off our little journey here, because it makes us ask a really important question. What do the numbers actually say? All right, first things first. To even start to figure this out, we need to get clear on what an ideal partner even looks like for a lot of people. We're going to focus on a couple of really common, and let's be honest, pretty demanding standards that you see all the time on that dating wish list.
Just think about it for a second. When people are talking about their perfect match, especially when it comes to those classic signs of success, what are the things that always seem to come up? Well, we're going to zero in on two criteria that are consistently right at the top of that list.
And here they are. Being a high earner and being tall, specifically 6 feet or taller. Now, these two things get mentioned all the time as being super desirable. But here's the key. For our purposes, these aren't just preferences. Nope. They are statistical filters, and we're about to see what happens when we apply them.
Okay, so let's jump right into the money part first. This is where what we think is common and what's actually common can start to look very, very different.
Let's start with a number that a lot of people see as a solid goalpost for being a high earner, an income of $100,000 a year. It sounds achievable, maybe even common, but just how many people actually make it to that level?
So the reality might be a little surprising. It turns out only about 10 to 15% of the population actually earns $100,000 or more. Let me put that another way. For every single person who meets this standard, you've got about 8 or 9 who don't. Just like that, our potential dating pool has shrunk a lot.
But hang on, let's push this even further. That headline at the beginning talked about millionaires, which is really just shorthand for the wealthiest slice of the population, the top 1%. So what does that actually mean, income-wise?
To get into that top 1% club of earners, you need to be pulling in over $300,000 a year. That is a way higher bar than that initial 100K filter we just looked at. Just keep that number in your head for a minute.
So we've got the income filter figured out. But remember, that was only one half of our high status checklist. Now it's time to add that second filter into the equation.
And there it is. The second big filter is height, 6 feet tall or more. And just like with income, this is another really specific, measurable standard that's going to narrow down our pool of partners even more.
And this is the real question, isn't it? This is what this whole thing is about. We've got our top 1% of earners, and we've got our 6-foot-plus height requirement. What on earth is the percentage of the population that actually checks both of those boxes?
Okay, it is time for a serious reality check. We're about to put these two filters together, and you're going to see just how unbelievably exclusive this combination really is.
This funnel idea explains it perfectly. So imagine we start with a random group of 100 guys. First, we pour them through the height filter. Poof, only a fraction make it through. Then, we take that already smaller group and pour them through the top 1% income filter. So, what actually comes out at the bottom?
The result is a number so incredibly small it's barely even there. Think about it. If only about 14% of men are over 6 feet tall and only 1% are top earners, the number of men who are both is a tiny, tiny piece of that 1%. We're talking well under 1 person in 100. Statistically speaking, the person who meets both of these criteria is unbelievably rare.
And this really gets to the heart of it all, the huge gap between what we expect and what's real. We're kind of led to believe, through TV and social media, that there's this big pool of tall, rich partners just waiting out there. The actual math, though, it shows that finding someone who hits both of these super high standards is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of a mountain.
So what do we do with all this? Look, understanding these numbers isn't about being negative. It's just about being realistic. And it leads us to one last really big question. When our desires are chasing a statistical unicorn, how does that huge gap between what we want and what's actually probable end up shaping the entire way we date today? Now that's something to think about.